shot or hanged or tar and feathered on the spot here in D.C. So there's doctors in the house with 1,700 people. The first doctor in the box was 40 feet away. He wanted to see the president's expressions that night. He liked Abraham Lincoln. His name was Dr. Charles Leal, 23 years old, 6 weeks out of medical school. And so he's the first one in the box. And what is he looking for? What did he see Booth hold? Yeah. He saw him hold a knife, though. Some people heard a pop, but backstage they thought some props had fallen. Some people over here might have seen the flash or the report of the gun go off, but very few people, equated this with a gunshot. So he's looking for a knife wound. He cannot find it. Then he looked into the president's eyes, and he saw that it was a major brain injury. So he felt for the wound, found the wound, stuck his pinky into the wound to dislodge a large blood clot. It's like taking a cork out of a bottle, releasing the pressure on the brain. Now there's 3 doctors in the box. Dr. Taft is hoisted up, Dr. King, and these doctors know that this wound is mortal. They've seen a lot of Civil War injuries. There is no way for him to recover. So what are they going to do with the president? They can't have him die in the theater. It's like the devil's playpen back then. It's questionable if he should even be in the theater on Good Friday.
He's looking to the house over there.
Yeah, very good. So, the best option is to get him across to the row houses, across the street, the boarding houses. So they took him out amongst 1,700 people, stopping in the middle of the street to remove another blood clot. Still not sure where to place him. One of his tenants, Henry Stafford, he saw the chaos from his room, came out to the stoop and he yelled, "Bring him in here." So they took the president into the back room. It was Willie Clark's room. He's out partying just like the war was over. They placed him on the back. How tall is Abraham Lincoln? 6'4". And the beds are 6 feet, so he's too tall, so they placed him diagonally, his legs hanging off towards the wall. They took off his clothes to examine him. Very impressed with his arms, his chest. 56 years old, 177 pounds. But he was a frontiersman, rail splitter, excellent wrestler in his youth, and chased vampires with the best of them. So he lasted 9 hours with that wound. Dr. Leal was honored for the way he cared for the president. He held his hand for hours. He knew that if the president did regain consciousness, he would be blind, and he wanted to let him know he had a friend. But the 16th president of the United States of America, Abraham Lincoln, he did not regain consciousness. He died at 7:22 Saturday morning, April 15th, which could be considered a downer in American history. What else is bad about April 15th? Tax days, the adults know. Titanic hit the iceberg April 14th, sank on the 15th. Boston Marathon bombing. Notre Dame fire of Paris. And who's heard of the Donner Party? That was, that left April 15th out of Springfield, Illinois in 1846. And who do you think was a lawyer in Springfield, Illinois in 1846? Abraham Lincoln. And Mary was pregnant, and he was friends with one of the leaders of the Donner Party. That was an expedition to go to California, and Lincoln always wanted to go to California. He was talking about it with Mary the day he was shot. Well, and according to Reed's daughter, one of the leaders of the Donner Party, Lincoln was seriously considering going on this expedition, but it wasn't good timing. Mary didn't want him to go. Well, that expedition ended up in the high Sierras. I'm from California, so it's a big story out west. They got stuck in the high Sierras, record snowfall, and 41 out of 87 died. Many resorted to cannibalism. So now it is known as Donner Pass, Donner Lake, and there's a very good Donner barbecue shop there. Ribs are tasty but lean. Sorry. Abraham Lincoln. That's why I get emails written about my. So, Lincoln shot on Good Friday, died on Saturday. What's the next day in 1865? Easter Sunday. So preachers got the word. They compared the president to Moses, who brought the Union to the promised land, but was not able to enter himself. They wrapped the president in an American flag, the scars over his face, 35 scars, put him in a pine box and took him to the White House for the autopsy. Dr. Curtis wrote, as I lifted the brain out of the cavity of the skull, out through my fingers dropped this little black mass into the porcelain basin below, making a clattering noise. He said, there it was. No bigger than the end of my finger, dull, motionless, yet the cause of such mighty changes in the world's history as we may perhaps never realize. Now that scoundrel John Wilkes Booth, 12 days after he left stage right at Ford's, he was tracked down to a tobacco barn near Port Royal, Virginia, surrounded by Union cavalry. Now, do you think that Booth wanted to surrender and be made a public spectacle?
No.
He did not. He said, I have too great a soul to die like a common criminal being hanged. So he challenged the cavalry to move back 50 paces. He'll come out and fight them. Kind of suicide by cavalry. Well, they don't want to kill Booth. They want to keep him alive and put him on trial and see if this conspiracy goes all the way to the top of the Confederacy. So it's a standoff. His co-conspirator, though, David Harrell, wants to surrender. Booth called him a coward, but let him surrender. Detective Conger fired the barn.